I was 19 when my stepmother smiled at me for the first time and asked me to sign a document. Not a birthday card, not a college form. A legal document. My father stood behind her, silent, like always. Just a small formality, she said, her voice sweet, too sweet. I didn't read it. I signed. That was the moment my life was sold, but not the way they expected. 3 weeks later, I found out what I had signed. It wasn't a formality. It was a transfer of guardianship and financial control of everything my late mother had left me. $280,000.
Gone.
Just like that. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. That's the first thing you need to understand about me. I don't react. I observe. Because pain teaches you faster than love ever will. That night, I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Every smile, every fake kindness, every "we're family now" lie. And then I smiled, not because I was okay, but because I finally understood the game. You see, people like my stepmother, they don't just take, they test. They watch how much you're willing to tolerate before they decide how much more they can steal. So I gave her exactly what she wanted, a weak girl. Next morning, I made breakfast. For everyone, even her. I served her tea with both hands, lowered my eyes, and said, "I'm sorry if I've been difficult. I just want peace." She looked at me confused, then satisfied. That was her first mistake. Because the moment people think they've won, they stop being careful. For the next 14 days, I became invisible. I cleaned, cooked, listened, and collected. Every conversation, every call, every document left open on the table. I memorized everything. My father wasn't stupid, just weak, controlled. Fear is louder than love, and she knew it. I learned their routines, when they left the house, when they argued, when they thought no one was listening. And then I found it, the real document, not the one I signed, the one she didn't want anyone to see. Hidden inside her wardrobe, under a false bottom, a contract between her and a man I didn't know. My name was on it, my money too. But there was something else, something colder. A clause. If subject becomes uncooperative, relocation is authorized. Relocation, not transfer, not adoption. Relocation. I read it 3 times. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just understood. They weren't just stealing my money. They were planning to remove me. Completely. That night, I didn't sleep. I planned. Because revenge isn't anger. Revenge is patience. Day 15, I made my first move. I walked into the living room while they were both there, held my phone loosely in my hand, and said something simple. I think I made a mistake signing that paper. My stepmother froze for half a second. My father looked up. Then she smiled. Again. That same soft, poisonous smile. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" I tilted my head, as if I didn't understand anything. I just don't remember what it was for. She relaxed. Just a little. Enough. "It was nothing important," she said, stepping closer. "You trust us, right?" I looked straight into her eyes and said softly, "Of course." That was the second mistake. Because trust is the easiest weapon to fake. That night, I sent an email from a laptop she didn't know I had to someone she didn't know I knew. The man in the contract. I didn't accuse him. I didn't threaten him. I didn't beg. I just wrote one sentence. I know what relocation means, and I know you don't work for free. And attached a photo of the contract. Then I waited. People think power comes from money, or status, or strength. It doesn't. It comes from information and timing. He replied in 47 minutes. Just 2 words. Who are you? I smiled, because now the game wasn't inside my house anymore. It had expanded. For the next 3 days, I played 2 roles. At home, I was quiet, obedient, harmless. Online, I was calculating, precise, dangerous. I learned everything about him. His business, his partners, his weaknesses. And most importantly, what he feared. Day 19, he called me. His voice was calm but tight. You shouldn't have that document. I leaned back, looked at the ceiling, and said softly, you shouldn't have signed it. Silence. Then, what do you want? That question changes everything. Because the moment someone asks what you want, they've already accepted you have power. I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence stretch. Uncomfortable, heavy, intentional. Then I whispered, I want to understand why I'm worth relocating. Another silence. Longer this time. You're not, he said finally. It's just business. I smiled again, because now I knew he didn't care about me, only about risk. Perfect. Then let me become a bigger risk, I said, and hung up. That night, my stepmother checked my room for the first time in weeks. She knew something was wrong. She just didn't know what. Fear had entered her world, quietly, like I had. And fear makes people careless. Day 21. I made my second move. I invited my father to sit with me. Just him. No her. That alone made him nervous. I poured him tea, just like she taught me. Then I said something he wasn't ready to hear. Dad, did you know what relocation means? The cup in his hand shook, just slightly. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because silence is louder than truth. I leaned forward, voice soft, almost kind. I'm not angry. That was a lie. I just want to know how much I was worth. He looked at me then, really looked, for the first time in years. And I saw it. Guilt, fear, regret. Too late. He whispered, I didn't think it would go that far. I nodded slowly, as if I understood, as if I forgave him. That was his mistake. Because forgiveness is the most dangerous illusion. I stood up, walked to the door, then stopped. Without turning back, I said quietly, then you should stop it. And left. That night, I packed a small bag, not to run, to prepare, because the next move was going to change everything. And someone was going to lose far more than money. I just hadn't decided who yet. I didn't leave the house that night. I stayed. That was the first thing they didn't expect. People think survival means running. No, real power is staying inside the fire and controlling who gets burned. I placed the small bag back under my bed, unzipped it slowly, and took out one thing, a second phone, clean, untraceable, silent. By morning, everything looked normal again. Breakfast silence, fake smiles. but inside, everything had shifted. My stepmother kept watching me, like she was trying to read something on my face. So I gave her nothing. No anger, no fear. Just calm. Calm terrifies people more than screaming ever could. Day 22. The man called again. This time, I answered on the second phone. "You're creating unnecessary problems," he said. His tone had changed. Less confident. More careful.
Good.
"I like problems," I said softly. "They show me who's weak." Silence. Then a quiet exhale. "You think you're smarter than everyone here," he said. "No," I replied. "I just think slower and act later." That line hit him. I could feel it. Because men like him, they rush. They assume control. They don't expect patience. "What do you want?" he asked again. This time, I answered. "I want my money back."
Pause.
"And I want her gone." Long silence. "That's not possible." I smiled. "Then neither is your peace." And hung up. You see, dark psychology isn't about manipulation. It's about pressure. Apply it slowly, and people break themselves. Day 24. Something changed. My stepmother stopped smiling. She started checking doors twice, lowering her voice on calls, watching my father like he was a liability. Fear was growing, exactly where I wanted it. That night, I heard them arguing.
Loud.
For the first time. "She knows something," my father said. "You're imagining things," she snapped. "No, she's different. She's not reacting." Silence. Then her voice. Lower, sharper. Then we move faster. I closed my eyes and smiled in the dark. Because now, they were rushing. And rushed people make fatal mistakes. Day 25. I made my third move. I walked into the kitchen, sat across from her, and said quietly, "I had a dream about Mom last night." Her hand froze midair. I kept my voice soft, almost innocent. She told me to check the wardrobe. For the first time, her face lost control. Just for a second. But that's all I needed. Because truth doesn't need proof. It just needs reaction. She recovered quickly, laughed. "You're imagining things." I nodded slowly, as if I believed her. "I hope so." And stood up, left. That was enough. That one sentence was like poison, slow, spreading, unstoppable. That evening, the man showed up, unannounced. My stepmother's face turned pale when she saw him.
Good.
Now the game had all its players in one room. I stayed upstairs, listening. Voices low, tense,
Sharp.
"You said she didn't know anything," he said.
She doesn't, she snapped.
"Then why is she talking about the wardrobe?" Silence. Then my father, weak, shaking, "We should stop this." "No," she hissed. "It's too late." And that's when I walked in.
Slowly.
Quietly, like I belonged there. All three of them turned. I didn't look at her. I looked at him. And smiled. "Nice to finally meet you," I said. The room froze. No one spoke. I walked to the table, sat down calmly, and placed something on it. The contract. The real one. My stepmother's hand shot forward. Too late. I placed my hand over it, gently, firmly. No sudden moves, I whispered, still smiling. The man leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing. What do you want? He asked again. I tilted my head, thinking slowly, as if deciding their fate bored me. I already told you. I looked at my stepmother now.
Directly.
I want her gone. Her voice cracked. You don't get to decide that. I leaned closer. Soft, cold. I already did. Silence.
Heavy.
Then I turned to my father. You still have a chance, I said quietly. Say the truth right now. His lips trembled. His eyes moved between us. Fear, guilt, confusion. And then he broke. She planned everything, he whispered. She told me it was just money. She said you'd be safe. My stepmother snapped. Shut up. But it was too late. Truth had entered the room, and truth destroys control. The man stood up slowly, looked at her, then at me, and I saw it. Calculation. Risk assessment. He didn't care about loyalty, only outcomes.
Perfect.
He picked up the contract, read it, again, then said something that changed everything. This deal is off. Her face went white. You can't just. I can, he cut her off.
Cold.
Final. You lied about the risk.
He looked at me. Long. Careful.
Then added, and she's not a liability.
Pause.
She's a problem. I smiled.
Slightly.
Because being a problem means you can't be ignored. He walked toward the door.
Stopped.
Without turning back, he said one last thing. Fix your house. And left.
The door closed.
Silence. My stepmother stood there, shaking, breathing hard. My father collapsed into a chair. And me, I stayed calm. Because the game wasn't over. Not even close. I stood up slowly, walked toward her, and stopped just inches away. Now, I whispered, what happens next depends on you. Her eyes burned with hatred.
Fear.
Desperation. Get out of my house, she said. I smiled.
Soft. Deadly.
I think you're the one leaving. She laughed.
Loud.
Unstable. You have nothing, she said. No proof, no power. I leaned closer, very close, and whispered something that made her entire body freeze. I sent copies. Silence. Her breath caught. To people you can't control. She stepped back, slowly, and for the first time, she looked small. But I wasn't done. Because revenge isn't about winning one moment. It's about controlling the ending. And the ending was still mine to write. She stepped back like the floor had disappeared under her, and for the first time, I saw it clearly. Not anger, not control.
Fear.
Pure, naked fear. And that's when I knew I had already won. But winning early is dangerous, because people like her don't fall quietly. They burn everything on the way down. So I didn't celebrate. I slowed down, because the final move is always the quietest. That night, no one ate dinner. My father stayed in his room, door locked, like guilt could protect him. My stepmother didn't sleep. I could hear her walking back and forth, like a trapped animal.
And me?
I lay still, eyes open, waiting. Because when someone loses control, they make one last desperate move. And I needed her to make it. Day 26, 3:17 a.m. My door opened.
Slowly, carefully.
I didn't move, didn't breathe differently, didn't react. She stepped inside. I could feel her presence, standing near my bed, watching me. Minutes passed, heavy, suffocating minutes. Then, a whisper.
Cold. Broken.
You ruined everything. I almost smiled, but I didn't. Because this was the moment. The moment where power shifts completely. I opened my eyes slowly, sat up, and looked at her.
Calm.
Unafraid. No, I said softly. You did. Her face twisted, not just with anger, but something deeper. Desperation. You think you're safe now, she hissed. You have no idea what you've started. I tilted my head slightly, studying her. You're right, I said. I started something.
Pause.
An ending. That word hit her
Hard.
She stepped closer, too close. And for a second, I thought she might do something stupid, something irreversible. But she didn't, because even in madness, people calculate risk. And she knew I had already moved the pieces. Where did you send it? She demanded. I stayed silent. Silence is power. She grabbed my arm.
Tight.
Painful. Tell me. I looked down at her hand, then back at her eyes, and smiled. Just a little. Everywhere that matters. That wasn't entirely true, but it didn't need to be. Because fear fills in the gaps better than truth ever could. She let go, stepped back, and I watched it happen, right in front of me. Her mind breaking.
Piece by piece.
Plans collapsing, control slipping, future dissolving. And then she did exactly what I wanted. She ran. Out of my room, out of control, out of strategy. Straight into a mistake. I waited 10 seconds, then stood up, followed quietly. She was in the living room, on her phone, hands shaking, voice panicked. I need you to fix this. Silence on the other end. You said she wouldn't know. More silence. Then her voice dropped, almost begging. I'll pay more, just.
Click.
The call ended. I leaned against the wall, watching. And that's when she saw me. Everything stopped. Her breathing, her movement, her control.
Gone.
You're finished, she whispered. I shook my head slowly. No.
Pause.
You are. She laughed again, that unstable laugh. You think sending papers will destroy me? She said. I've survived worse than you. I stepped forward.
Slow.
Measured. I know, I said quietly. That's why I didn't send them to destroy you. She frowned.
Confused.
Then why? I stopped right in front of her, looked straight into her eyes. To isolate you. Silence. And then it hit her. Because destruction is loud, messy, unpredictable. Isolation is clean, final. I didn't expose you. I continued softly. I showed just enough.
Pause.
To the right people. Pause. To make sure no one stands with you. Her face drained of color. No allies. I whispered. No protection.
Pause.
No control. She stepped back again. You're lying. I smiled.
Soft. Certain.
Check your phone.
She did.
Hands trembling. Message after message.
Calls.
Missed calls. Blocked numbers. Her world.
Closing in.
Because people like her, they don't fall because of one enemy. They fall when everyone steps away. She dropped the phone. And for a moment, she looked at me like I was something else. Not a girl. Not weak. Something worse. Something she created. My father walked into the room.
Slow.
Broken. He looked at her, then at me, and whispered, "What have you done?" I turned to him.
Calm.
Empty. I finished it. Silence. He sat down.
Didn't speak again.
Because deep down, he knew. This wasn't revenge. This was consequence. Later that morning, she packed her things. Quietly. No shouting. No drama. Just leaving. At the door, she stopped. Turned back. For one last look. You'll regret this, she said. I didn't move. Didn't blink. No, I replied softly. You will. She left. And just like that, the house felt different. Quieter, lighter, but not peaceful. Because peace doesn't come from winning. It comes from understanding. My father never apologized. Not properly. Some people
Don't know how.
and I didn't ask. Because closure isn't something you get from others. It's something you take. A week later, I received a message. Unknown number. Just one line. You played better than all of us.
I stared at it for a long time.
Then deleted it. Because the game was over. And I wasn't playing anymore. People always ask me how I stayed so calm, how I didn't break, how I controlled everything. The truth is simple. When you grow up surrounded by manipulation, you learn two choices. Become the victim, or become the one who understands the game. I chose understanding, not because I wanted power, but because I refused to be powerless. And if there's one thing you should remember from my story, it's this. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. And the quiet ones don't lose. They wait.